Hello and welcome to my ranking of the Uncharted series. If you haven't seen my previous videos on all the games, I recommend watching those before this to get my full thoughts. But without further ado, let's get into it.
5 times double gulp fuck me.
The worst Uncharted game by a mile is Drake's Fortune. Obviously it's Drake's Fortune. This is the only game in the series that I actually don't like. It's a necessary evil for the series to introduce the characters so we can get straight into the other games without slowing down to introduce everyone. Like if you're playing the game for the first time, you'll probably enjoy it. I liked this game when I first played it, but once you play the other games, playing the game a second time is a real test of patience. So if you like this game and want to replay Uncharted, skip this game. If you like the game, keep it that way. You already know what happens in the game, so just skip to the good ones. The game wouldn't be nearly as bad if the player did anything besides shoot people in gray ruins a million times. The shooting galleries also wouldn't be as bad if they just made the arenas laid out differently. Like, it's just a room with random stone rectangles, with every enemy in front of you, no variation. In the rest of the series, you fight enemies that are above you, behind you, sometimes they're behind an armored sentry gun. But not in Drake's Fortune. In this game, it's just a flat area with every enemy on the same level. They're all in front of you, there's no fun to be had. Because most of the game, there's only like 3 enemy types. And don't even get me started on the jet ski again. This game didn't age well to begin with, but it's much more aged in comparison to how much the rest of the series excels at this format. If someone played this game and then wrote off the whole series, I honestly wouldn't blame them. The characters are pretty good, but just like everything else, they shine in the other games much more than they do here. I don't really enjoy this game very much whatsoever.
I am at Chipotle. Stay tuned.
In the 4th place spot for me is The Lost Legacy. Now let's get one thing straight. My enjoyment of this game compared to Drake's Fortune is incomparable. I actually like this game. It's a short but interesting little side adventure with a few of the great side characters. But something about this game just doesn't click with me. Maybe because I've only ever played this game immediately after playing Uncharted 4, so the character work of Chloe and Nadine's growing friendship doesn't really work very well. Like, they get to know each other, then Nadine finds out Sam and punches Chloe, and then she strands her in the middle of the jungle. And then about 10 minutes later, she's already forgiven Chloe, and they're back to being friends again for the rest of the game. It's just strangely rushed for a series that's always been good at resolving conflicts over a longer period, like Nate and Elena in Uncharted 4. And like I mentioned in my video, besides the awesome lockpicking scene, all of the big spectacle sequences came off as a little half-baked. But this game is in no way bad. Personally, it just doesn't fully come together in the end for me. But I still enjoy it, especially Chloe and Nadine's dialogue with Sam in the final sections of the game. But this is basically a filler episode that came out after the finale, so I just don't really feel this one as much as the rest.
They must have amnesia. They forgot that I'm him.
In the 3rd spot is, coincidentally, Uncharted 3. While The Lost Legacy was consistently pretty good, this game has the highest highs and the lowest lows of the whole series. Like Talbot. For those who've seen my video on Uncharted 3, you know how much the stuff with Talbot really irks me. The scene of Nate in the desert takes way too long to get the point across in what could have just been a cutscene. But even though this game has the lowest low point of the series, the highs are so astronomically high that I can easily overlook them. The bar fight, the house fire, the sinking cruise ship, the plane crash, and the destruction of Ubar are all in this single game. For every bad moment, there are 2 top-tier action sequences to make up for it. I also enjoy the flashbacks of young Nate meeting Sully for the first time. Speaking of Sully, Uncharted 3 is the only game in the whole series where Sully doesn't leave the game in the first quarter and then come back at the end. Sully is with Nathan for almost every part of the game, and him getting to express his gratefulness for him and Nate's relationship at the end will always be a top 3 moment for me in the series. The focus on Sully really brings the game back from the dead in the final part. Sully's father figure role comes full circle in this game, and it's the best Nate and Sully have ever been together. So even though many people have this as their least favorite, I love Uncharted 3.
I see your comments, ladies, and they make me smile. I'm lurking and I'm stalking when you least expect.
And in the 2nd place spot, I have Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. This is probably my hottest take. I still personally like Uncharted 2 more, but only a little bit. It really is a slight difference. One day you could ask me what my favorite is, and I'll tell you Uncharted 4, but for now, after replaying all the games and making all my videos, Uncharted 4 is getting the silver in this competition. Uncharted 4 is still one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, just the truck chase alone could get this game in 2nd. I think what gives Uncharted 2 the edge is that you're always playing the game. What I mean by that is there's no moments in Uncharted 2 where you have to go at walking speed through a prison, or walk around Nathan's house, or slowly stumble through a beach at half the normal speed. Moments in the game where you control the characters in a very limited amount of movement has always been something I hate. Just like the desert scene in Uncharted 3, all of these things could have been cutscenes. But when you do play the game, I have no complaints. The four-wheeler mechanics are surprisingly good, and the gun combat is incredible, especially on PS5. Uncharted 4's story is the best of the series, with absolutely no competition. I don't think there's a single person on the planet that would disagree with that. Just the one scene of Elena in the hotel room is better than all of the stories from the past 3 games combined. The game also looks absolutely amazing. This is the best looking game of the series, and it still looks better than most games coming out now over 5 years later. And that doesn't even include the PS5 upgrade. The PS4 version looks just as good, and the ending is just incredible. They could have ended the game with Nate and Elena on the docks, but they decided to have a whole epilogue to show us that everything did end up working out for Nate and Elena. This is just an absolutely amazing game. This might be objectively the best game of the series, but I still think there's one that deserves the crown just a little bit more.
I am not shaped like a Ferris wheel!
Obviously, number 1 is Uncharted 2. This is one of, if not the best video game sequel of all time. I mean, in 2 years, they took this series from bottom tier to S tier. It's genuinely perplexing how they went from flat environments with 3 enemy types to every combat arena being laid out completely different way, and having tons of different enemies. Then add in huge action sequences that were completely absent from the first game, and huge fights against helicopters, tanks, and then add in a villain that actually does things. All of those things create the perfect sequel. Then add a great side villain too with Harry Flynn, who serves as the anti-Nathan Drake, kinda like Ambrose from Mission Impossible 2. Speaking of Mission Impossible, why is nobody talking about how the ending of Dead Reckoning is literally the Uncharted 2 train sequence? This is the true Uncharted movie experience. Anyway, Uncharted 2 is in my top 10 games of all time. I have a lot of love for it. It's the only Uncharted game that I'm considering getting the Platinum Trophy for. Uncharted 2 is just that game for me. I genuinely play it like every few months. Like when I don't know what else to play, this is what I'm doing for a week. And I'll have just as much fun as the last time I played it. Besides The Lost Legacy, which I've only played twice, I've played every Uncharted game 3 times, except for Uncharted 2, which I've played 6 times since the first time I played it in September 2021. I can't even put nostalgia into account for my enjoyment of this game, because I only played it for the first time 2 years ago. This game just activates something in my lizard brain that no other game does, and that's why it gets the number 1 spot.